Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into my channel Huub Hildenbrand Guitar Academia. Today we talk about another feature of North Indian classical music, and that's the Arohi and the Avarohi, or Avarohan and Arohan. It's called. It's the upward and the downward movement of those scales, the melodic movements, how they in a raga, how they move up and how they move down, because it's a real difference how you play melodies moving up and moving down. There is a strict, there are different rules, so to speak, and these upward and downward movement for every rag is something like very, very basic, and it's like one of the, besides the scale itself, it's one of the most important features. And it's actually quite, it's a purely Indian concept, and there are a lot of these. There are there's really some concepts which you don't find anywhere else, and I'm sure that has to do with the fact that it's really like this raga music is really like you stay with the same tonic all the time, and you purely do like melodic movements, and so by restricting to that all the other areas like rhythm and ornamentation and rules, how this rag behaves melodically and so on, it's like really complex. It's really highly developed. It's like, in a way, it's the attention is on these things, whereas in the West, in the European classical music, the attention is more on the harmony, on the modulation, and that kind of a thing. So, but but in a way, before we came before we came actually to Baroque and classical music, we had this Renaissance. And in Renaissance, and especially before in Gregorian chant, we had actually more modes, more scales, where we composed and sang our lyrics on different kind of modes, like Dorian and Phrygian and these kind of modes, and later on, when we came more to this Baroque period, all these different modes were actually reduced to like just two keys, like minor and major. So that's, in a way, it's a real like also a simplification. But by simplifying that, we opened again like other possibilities, or we concentrate on other elements of music, complex harmonies and modulations, as I said. And also before we had early on we had like microtones, like during Bach's time we had like different, like Kernberg and all these different kind of tunings, which were not equal tunings, like equal temperament, 12-tone temperament, what we have today. And that also, this 12-tone equal temperament also is a simplification already. But this way we made sure that we made it possible to modulate to just every key in just a second. So, and in Indian music we stay with the same kind of a scale, of course, which has sometimes variations, not only using 7 notes, but sometimes you're just using 5 notes all the time, like Bhupali, for example, is a rag, like major pentatonic. But we stick to that one one mood, one scale, one like a limited choice of notes, and keeping always our root the same. And by limiting ourselves to that, we get really deep into that melodic construction of a and then we developed this concept of raga, and where it's going really deep into the melodic thing, and also of course the rhythmical thing. All right, so as I said, we talk today about the up and the downward movement of rags, about that concept, and that's really in Indian raga music. It's really like different, and you really have to consider that when you improvise and when you compose music. That's one very, very basic and important thing. There are ragas which move just the scale, like Bhairavi, for example. That's like a Phrygian scale, which just moves up in the same way as it moves down. All the 7 notes up, all the 7 notes down, very just straight. But there are other ragas like Desh, for example, which moves up with 5 notes, like a kind of a pentatonic, you can say, and moves down with 7 notes. And also in this case of Desh, up it uses the major 7s and down it uses the minor 7s. And that's something what is like the basic rule of this raga. It's just how it moves up, how it moves down, how many notes it takes moving up, how many notes it moves down, takes it to move down, and what kind of notes it's using up and what kind of notes it is using downward. So that's a lot of informations actually already, very important informations about the rag in these kind of Arohan and Avarohan movements. All right, just a bit on the theory also, just to make clear some things. By the way, the complete, more explanations and more like the full thing you actually get in the PDF. Just go down in the description below. There you find the link to download the PDF on that topic, and this of course also helps to support this channel. And there you find everything we are talking today and more, of course. And there you find also the concept. There's this important concept of moving up and moving down, and these movements are classified in the so-called Jati. Jati has some different meanings. We also use it later on in rhythm. It's actually like Jati is a kind of a classification thing. We classify certain things, and in this case the Jati is actually the number of how many different notes we use moving up and how many different notes we use moving down. And there I have to look at my page because of these names. So we have Auraf, that means we take 5 notes. And then we have Sharaf, that means we take 6 notes, and Sampurn means we take 7 notes, so the full scale. So we say, for example, this, like for example, Desh is, the Jati of Desh is Auraf Sampurn. That means, Auraf means it takes 5 notes going up and 7 notes going down. And we don't care about these variations in the notes, like we use Ni, so the major 7s up, and we use Komal Ni, the minor 7s in downward motion. We don't consider these different pitches actually in the classification of the Jati. And that's actually very common, that you use less notes moving up. Very frequently it's a kind of a pentatonic thing, like just 5 notes moving up, and moving down very often it's the full thing, Sampurna, like all the seven notes. But of course there are also ragas who have like 5 notes only, like a pentatonic thing, or just 6 notes. Even smaller ones. I'm in the book of Ravi Shankar, My Music, My Life. There he also says something about a rag which just has 3 notes. And but I asked other like classical North Indian classical musicians also, and they it's very uncommon, and it's maybe more like a scientific thing. But somebody actually told me, somebody told me that he heard a performance actually where the musician, maybe sitar, I don't know, played actually a rag with just 3 notes and whatever. Very often when you I think maybe I also heard something like that actually, but when you say it's just 3 notes, you very often you use like ornamentations, and these ornamentations actually hint also on other notes. But I'm not really too much into that, and it's really like more like a very maybe more scientific or more a special occasion. You do that. I don't know. And there's also, what is this called? Vakrachal. Vakrachal means like it's a kind of a zigzag movement of the up or downward motion. So sometimes it's not straight, that you just go through all the notes or just only 5 of them in the ascent, but you circle a bit around, and then you just count the notes. The notes all together, which you use in this ascending or descending movement, and then you have your jati. So if you already use like all the 7 notes in Vakrachal, so in like a zigzag movement going up, then the jati is sampurn in the ascent. And if you do not really understand what I'm talking about, please download the PDF there. It's a bit more explained there. Okay, so what I will do now here in the lesson, I will play you the different up and downward movements of 11 ragas, and these 11 ragas is actually what we talked about in the lesson on Tat. So on these more scientific, systematic collection. 2 ragas, which are just like plain scales. And now I show you, so to speak, the first step, how you make music out of that when you're not talking about, for example, like bilaval, like major scale, or like Ashavari, for example, Tat, which has just these 7 notes. But when you talk about the actually Ashavari raga, then you see, it's moving 5 notes. Right, is it right? No. Let's see. Yes, it moves like 5 notes. So auraf moves up, and down it moves really like all the seven notes. So it's auraf sampurn. That's a movement of that raga. And there are also some other features which notes are important, like samvadi and vadi note. This is also assigned here on this page in the PDF, and also the time, like morning, evening, raga, and so on. That's not really our topic today, but it's on that page. So if you download the PDF, you also have these informations. But you have the main thing now here on this lesson is actually to just go through these 11 ragas. So not tat, but ragas, and just play the up ascending and the descending form. Just to hear that, how this scientific tat scale theoretical organization tool will get music in a way. Like the first basic step, how you make actually music out of a just a plain scale. And as I said, there are more possibilities, I mean more concepts to really have that raga, to really play it. And we already talked about some stuff, of course, but we will go on with that. So don't consider this as the explanation of that's how a raga is going. It's just one part, but it's, or one concept, but it's a very, very, maybe one of the most important concepts in raga music. Okay, for this lesson, I have a Tanpura machine, so which brings this drone to really be always settled in this in the key with a sa as a reference, and it looks like that. It's like a Ragini digital. It's called electronic Tanpura. And actually, sometimes you also see that when you watch like YouTube videos of people performing. Sometimes instead of actually somebody who plays the tambura, you know, it's this kind of looks like a sitar, long neck, and you just play the open strings. But you have this drone all the time. So to not pay an extra musician who's doing that, there is this great tool of this electronic Tanpura. It's also, of course, for practicing. If you practice and you don't have anybody who's playing this drone instrument all the time. Nowadays, of course, people do not really carry these things around with them. They have it in the mobile phone or something, and you see that quite often. That on concerts, it's just the mobile phone has maybe a microphone, or is just plugged in the PA directly, and so you don't need a tambura player anymore. But in the early days, of course, you always had these tambura players, and very often like two of them, left and right, and of course that's a different sound, of course, if this real acoustic instruments are the sound goes into the room, and but anyway, it's mostly just also very soft anyway, that note just in the background. So it's yeah, you can just rely on that. Okay, so I put it on. Yeah, that's just sa. So I just have the root. Normally you add also like pa, like the fifth, or ma, the fourth. Sometimes also ni, the seventh. But in this case, it is just the root, because some ragas. It's really also it's really depending on the raga, which notes the tambura is playing. Normally it's the root and the fifth, or like three roots, or one root, two roots an octave higher, and the fifths. Perfect fifth. But it's varying, and the ragas I play now, I'm sure they have different tambura settings actually. So I just make it very, very simple and just have my root here, just my sa all the time, and it's a C. Yeah. Okay, Bhairavi, and I don't say anything, because I could now tell you what is a Jati, what is a time, and what is which are the important notes, but that's all written on the page. So, and I'm assuming that you download this page to really get the full package. Okay, so Bhairavi. Then we have Ashavari. Then we have Tori. Yeah, that's a kind of a Vakra chal you have there. Actually, you have 6 notes moving up, which is called Sharaf. And downward movement, it uses all the notes. So it's Sampur, but it's using like Vakra chal, it's in zigzag movement. Okay, Kafi, which is kind of a Dorian thing. Okay, so it's not really straight in the descent. Then we have Kamash. There you have to be careful because up we use like ni and down we use komal ni. And also we skip the re in the ascent, so we have a 6-note upward motion. And down it's Mixolydian, 7 notes, Sampurn. Then we have Marva. Marva is very interesting raga. It's very dissonant. Okay, and it starts with ni. So we start below sa because that's a kind of a typical thing quite often in ragas that we skip the sa. Sometimes also the pa. We here also in this raga we skip the pa in ascent. So it's a very it's a completely different mood, so to speak, when we move up. We don't have all these notes which are so stable. It's like a really, in a way we move in a very unstable way, creating a lot of tensions. Then we have Purvi. One more time. Yeah, so we also use a different a different note of ma. We use ma and tivra ma in the descent movement. But when we say when we talk about this jati, this is still, it's two variations of the ma. So we say, okay, we use ma in the descent. So actually it's also like sampurn, but yeah, we use, of course, we use, of course, like 8 notes actually when you count them. But like sampurn is maximum actually, because you can only have like different Cs, different Sas, Res, Gas. So if you don't count if like Komal Ga and Shud Ga is no different for you than maximum of notes is 7, of course. Bilawal, that's just a major scale, and it moves down up Arohi and Avarohi, so up and down with all the 7 notes. So the Jati is actually sampurn. Yeah, that's it. Bhairav, it's a nice scale. Bhairav, like a early morning raga. It's like the Turkish makam Sirgüli Hicaz, the notes, and but it's actually it's good. It's not that difficult in a way. You don't have to consider when you play that raga, when you improvise on that. Then you don't have to consider too much the up and downward movement, because it's in both directions the same. It's sampurn, just straight up and down, all the 7 notes. Then you have Kalyan. Kalyan is like Lydian, and it likes to not show the sa. I show you what I mean. So it's like, instead of going from sa, you again start with ni, and then you go directly to re. So I play just the note, the sa that you heard. It's the reference. And downward. Yeah, and already with these movements, you already create, of course, a certain mood. Yeah, we talked about mood, and yeah, that's one very how it moves up, how it moves down the raga. That's a very important consideration when talking about mood. Then you have Kirvani, and Kirvani is just harmonic minor scale, and it's sampurn. It means it moves up 7 notes straight, no vakrachal, and down straight 7 notes. So it's just. And this is a sort of an extra. And when we talked about tat, I told you that's actually we have like 10 tats, but this is like kind of considered the 11th tat. So it maybe not really belongs to that list here. But some people really say that's the 11th tat, and that's also a very important scale. So I added it here. Okay, so so two things you hopefully have learned here to just sum up this lesson. One thing is that it's a difference. That's a different thing when we talk about tat and when we talk about raga. So a tat is just in a way a more scientific scale. It's more like a theoretical thing. It's used very frequently for practicing, like different permutations of sequences through scales and all these things. Because when you play tat, practice in tat, you don't have to consider like how it's moving up and how it's moving down. So you can really like just freely sequence certain patterns and like alancards is called. You play a certain pattern. Yeah, for example. And this what I just did. You can't do. You very often you can't do that in a raga, because a raga is not moving always up. It's not possible to do all these movements which I play when I sequence a certain kind of a phrase on every scale degree. So a tat is something different as a raga. And one very important feature of the raga, what a tat doesn't have, is this Avarohi and Arohi. So Arohi, upward movement, and Avarohi, downward movement. And also, these different movements already are creating a certain mood. Because there are ragas which share exactly the same tat, the same 7 notes, but they have a different jati. I mean, a different Arohi, Avarohi. So a different way how to move up and down. So maybe also a different jati. But they can use, for example, Auraf jati, so up 5 notes, and they can use like different 5 notes in another raga. So it's in total they use the same notes, but they use different selections of notes when moving up and down. And that already makes a huge difference in mood, because you create something different. If you always play these 5 notes, only these 5 notes, when you move up, of course you create a different mood than if you play other 5 notes or the whole scale up. Yeah, so that's a really very important thing, and especially when you really want to play in that music and improvise in that, you really have to be careful, because that's really something more when you look at that more from a Westerner perspective. It's very hard actually to think like that, because we are used also in modal jazz, for example. You are used to, I have these 7 notes and I can do just anything. So I play Dorian or I play Phrygian, and these 7 notes of that scale I can do however, and that's actually good and right and complete in a way. But in raga music it's different. This idea of Arohi and Avarohi really makes the whole improvisation a real challenge also. So that's already like something I think if you understand this, then you already understand that it really takes some time to learn a raga. And as I said, there are more things to consider. It's not just that. But it's really, if a raga really uses very strictly this Arohi, Avarohi thing, you are not allowed to play certain notes in an upward or downward movement. It's just forbidden. It's wrong, you know. And like Indian musicians, they say, "Oh, it's wrong. Oh, he don't know this raga. He's like an amateur, or it's a mistake, you know." And the thing is, what happens if you do that? It's not just wrong. It's just you destroy the mood of the rag, or in a way you destroy the whole music. You destroy the raga. But the sound is gets different. You emphasize different notes. You by doing these different forms of moving up and down, you create a certain mood, and this mood is what you're going for. So the whole composition and improvisation in that raga, and it's like in every raga performance of that one raga, for example, Kamaj, you go for that mood, especially in Drupad, for example, in these older styles. There, you really take this very, very, very serious. It's a very serious thing. All right, I hope you got a bit more insight on this raga, like Indian music, North Indian classical music. We mainly deal here with. Maybe I will go in a later lesson. I will show you or my thoughts about how to apply that concept actually in how I am applying that concept in my music, because I do not really consider that too much. But that's a different story. I mean, it's also because, of course, I very frequently, I play like modal in one key, but I also like to change from time to time, and then in a way the mood is lost anyway. It's like a bit like Ragamala, where you show like different rags. It's also kind of a performance. You like a technique or like a kind of idea to improvise or compose to show different rags in one performance, one piece. But anyway, I think you have enough, and please download the PDF. You support this channel, and also you get all these informations. There are more informations, as I said, than what I just told you. So, and before I forget it. Also, you can donate. There's a link down in the description below to my website, hoophildenbrand.com, and there you find also a button where you can donate to support my work here. So this would be really great. So thanks for watching. My name is Hoop Hildenbrand.